As promised, the Michigan Mailbag is back. This is a Saturday edition, Locked On Wolverines, right now.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Saturday. We are back in doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Part of why we're doing Saturday and Sunday episodes is because I kind of took the last couple days as my weekend, because I will be live early, either later tonight or earlier tomorrow from Traverse City, Wolverines weekend up at the Grand Traverse Resort and Spa. So we are getting to the Michigan Mailbag today. Let's start with our leaders and best. Ooh, all right. Can't breathe here. James Grudem at James Grudem 6. Would you rather see Michigan win 11 or 12 games with an easy schedule, or win 9 games with a tough schedule, but marquee matchups? That one's easy for me, really. I would rather they have the 9 games tough schedule, marquee matchups. Because to me, the matchups are what makes college football fun, right? It's not seeing Michigan versus a group of 5 team, right? It's Michigan, Texas coming up. It's having gone in 2017 to see Michigan play Florida in Arlington. It's getting to see Michigan against Georgia. Now, I was excited that Michigan didn't have the marquee matchup in the college football playoff, and they ended up losing. But I was all about Michigan playing Georgia 2 years ago. And I knew it was it was a potentially losing proposition. Granted, I don't think I picked it that way because I was blinded by the idea of destiny. But I do feel like it's I do feel like I'd rather see those big matchups, right? And Michigan hasn't played a couple teams I really like. Michigan LSU. How awesome would that be, right? I'd rather see that and it not come out Michigan's way than Michigan, especially with the new scheduling. You look at, I think, 2025, and it's like, no Penn State, no, I think, I have to look again here, just because I can't quite remember what it was, but, no USC, no UCLA. I mean, UCLA is kind of whatever, but, let's see here. I have it right here. Just took me a second. Well, I did, and then I had to click it up again. So 2025, it's Northwestern. Okay, Penn State is on there. Ohio State, Purdue, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan State, Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska adds to that, right? I know they're not that good compared to normal, or I should say normal, like when I was growing up. But, let's say it was, you didn't have Nebraska on there, and then say 2025 didn't end up having Oklahoma, and it just was like this year's, like East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green. It'd be like, whatever, man. Like, okay, well, you better win it all. But I would rather see, that's where I think Ohio State, I mean, Michigan's always had like a really good non-conference schedule anyway, generally, last couple of years notwithstanding. But that's where Ohio State had the home and home with USC, Oklahoma. I've always adored that, right? And Michigan didn't necessarily need it because they played Notre Dame every year. But now they don't. So I'd rather see the marquee matchup. Josh Barr at Jadicki, aside from traveling to California for road games, why do people keep acting like playing UCLA is going to make the schedule so much harder? Recent history says they're a mid-tier Big Ten West team. I mean, it's UCLA is potentially, when they're at their best, they're, I think, a mid-upper tier Big Ten West team. And playing them on the road, playing with the Rose Bowl, and granted, I don't think that's a great road environment. I just think it helps, right? It's a Power 5 school that has some name recognition, has a good coach right now, has some players, certainly could be in that conversation. UCLA, I mean, I haven't heard people acting like that's like a big deal. And granted, Michigan won't go to UCLA until 2026. So, it's, I think playing at USC is a potentially more daunting thing. Now, that said, football ain't really Los Angeles's thing, right? Like college football, USC way more than UCLA, but only if USC is good. UCLA is just kind of sad when it comes to the road environment. My brother in metal, Michael Wolf at MWolf21. It sounds like Campbell is having a larger impact on the Michigan offense than Weiss did, even though he was also very highly spoken of. Why do you think that is? What is your dream job that would make you leave your current position? For the latter, I don't know what it would be because this was what I fought for and got, and just signed up another year with USA Today. So I don't know. As far as Campbell having a larger impact, I don't know that that's necessarily true because it feels like the type of thing that gets said every time there's a new coach. Like, well, the other coach was whatever. This coach is they're just way more involved and they're just blah, blah, blah. I don't think that he's necessarily got a bigger impact. And in a way, I almost don't want to see him have a bigger impact. I just want to see what Sharon Moore can do, right? Because keep in mind, Matt Weiss was very pivotal in the game planning. I want to see Kurt Campbell be more of just kind of corralling the quarterback situation, right? As far as the dream job, yeah, I don't know. I especially like that, during the summer months, most days like today and tomorrow notwithstanding, days like last week Thursday notwithstanding, it's I might only have a couple hours of 1 to 2 hours worth of work to do any given day. So that part's like having essentially a summer vacation. Although it's not necessarily vacation, I have days where I think it was Thursday this week where I was running like a chicken with my head cut off all day and I barely worked. But it's nice to be able to have that. But I don't know. I'm not really sure what my dream job might be. Something in ministry, maybe. But something where maybe I'm like in Costa Rica and like a missionary in Costa Rica. That might be it. Jimmy Whitner at Jimmy Whitner 1. First off, thank you for your cold weather gear advice. Absolutely, my man. No problem. Hope I was quick to get that back to you. If anyone wants to know what we're talking about, I had discussed on an earlier podcast about getting the warmest jacket in the world. And when I say that, that's not hyperbole. It was tested to be the warmest jacket in the world. It is pricey, but it's the Life Labs Mega Warm Jacket. And I can attest, I had some turmoil the day that it arrived, and it was literally like 5 degrees outside. And so I had to be out of the house, and I didn't get in my car. I just walked. I walked 7 miles in that jacket with a t-shirt underneath, and just talking on the phone. And when I got home, I was just sweating profusely. Again, it was 5 degrees outside at night. Number 2, what are your likes and dislikes for the 2024 schedule? And I'll combine that with, we'll get to that in a second, because Jonathan Joseph at JJoseph2156 had thoughts on the 2024 and 25 slate. Would love to see Michigan at the Coliseum. So we'll kind of combine those. So number 3, if you could add any 2 teams to the Big Ten, who would you consider? Who would you ultimately pick to actually join? If I could add any 2 teams, not just like who I think would necessarily fit, I mean, it would be probably Texas and Oklahoma. Because I don't think they necessarily fit from an academic standpoint, but I wanted Texas and Oklahoma well before they ended up in the SEC. But that didn't work, right? They went to the SEC. Michigan, I would have rather USC and UCLA went to the SEC and Texas and Oklahoma came to the Big Ten, just because I feel like that's a better fit from a football perspective. Oh, well. As far as the 2024 and 25 slate, I mean, I like it. I'm not crazy about the in-season road trip to UCLA, but I mean, we were going to have that with Washington, right? A 5-hour plane trip. But looking at 2024 first, I mean, it's not anything crazy. It's kind of, what's kind of annoying though is re-adding Wisconsin. Now, granted, I know they're going to play every team in a 2-year period. That's the goal every year, right? Play every team in a 2-year period within the conference. But like, and at least it's at home. At least Wisconsin's at home. Last one was away, so that's good. The Nebraska series is no longer after this year, but they'll play every couple of years. I mean, for the most part, it's kind of makes sense, right? Like at Illinois, they had hosted Illinois last year. So now they go to Illinois, some of these games at Rutgers make sense. UCLA is home at USC. I knew that obviously because I mentioned they don't play at UCLA, but at USC, I mean, that's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. But 2024 doesn't look like anything very different, right? They play at Minnesota. Now they host Minnesota. You're really just kind of adding, USC, UCLA, and Wisconsin to the schedule, and that's fine. As far as 2025, you get Penn State again, and it's a home game, so that's fun. But 2025 away, for the most part, it's nothing crazy, right? Your crossovers are Northwestern, Purdue, at Iowa, so they skip a home Iowa game, but at Iowa, and the other teams are just what you would expect. So it's not really that much different in the conference schedule. So finishing us out with the first segment is Spencer Whitmore. Spencer Whitmore, thoughts on the Big Ten stopping divisions and top two seeds playing each other in 2024. Honestly, 2 back-to-back Ohio State games might give me a 14-day migraine. Yeah, you hope that in a way, and granted 2024, I don't know what Michigan's going to be, right? We don't know what the roster is going to look like and all of that, who's going to leave, who's going to stay, specifically at the quarterback position. Yeah, it's going to be daunting to potentially have those games back to back. Unfortunately, that's just the world we're going to live in. Do I like it? No. But did I like it when it was initially a possibility? Back when they did the Leaders and Legends, I loved it then, and I more so hate it now. But heck, you know what? It might give you a reprieve. They might make that game kind of meaningless. The actual game. So if both teams, if it's like it has been the last couple of years, where it's like, well, it's going to be one of these two teams. But that puts the onus on USC, Penn State, Wisconsin, all those other teams to step things up. And it could make for a more exciting overall regular season in the Big Ten. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment. Before we do, if you want to get into the comfort kingdom, then guess what? I've got just the thing for you. Birddogs is revolutionizing comfort when it comes to your pants and shorts. Whether you're looking for something dressy for the gym, going out to the lake this summer, if you're up at Wolverines weekend, up at Grand Traverse Spa, what have you, anything in between, Birddogs has got you covered. You look and you'll feel better wearing Birddogs, and guess what? They allow you the versatility of going from the beach to the golf course, right to dinner, or to your next meeting. Take my guy, the machine, Bert Kreischer, who he and I talked. Let's get him to be an honorary captain at Michigan. Why? No reason. Just because we thought it would be funny. Wakes up at his lake house, goes for a swim, smokes a cigar, grills, chills with his family, all in his summer shorts. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege, enter the promo code LockedOnCollege, and they'll throw in a free tumbler, a Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege, promo code LockedOnCollege. All right, we are on to our Victors Valiant, starting with Mark Z at Mark Zimke. I know you've mentioned it's a good thing for assistant coaches to leave for promotions. All the top-tier programs deal with this, but for Harbaugh to say that 4 coaches could be head coaches this time next year seems like a strange thing to say, out loud. I think he's just got confidence in his guys, right? And really, when you're bringing in assistant coaches, that's what you want to be able to tout. You want to be able to say, you can come here, get done what you need to get done, and then you're going to go be a head coach somewhere. That's what Nick Saban's done in Alabama, right? The Nick Saban rehab for coaches who can't not get in trouble good. So it's, that Michigan's not going to be that, right? They're not going to bring in troubled coaches, but you want to be able to look a up-and-coming assistant coach in the eye and say, I see something in you. Come here, give me 2 years, you're going to be a head coach. Now, a lot of these guys might not necessarily be 2-year guys, but, that could eventually be the thing is we're going to make you a head coach. That's what we're going to do. So, I think that's great. I think that's exactly where their mindset should be. I don't think it's a problem saying it out loud. It's one thing if you're saying it about kids, and it's another thing you say it about coaches. If you're like, yeah, all these 30-year players, they gone. That might be something you don't want to say. Coaches, that's fine. Because it's not like he's saying that they're going to be fired, right? He's saying that they're going to be such hot commodities, other people want them. Clark at Blue for Life 8, what's your favorite football shot you've taken? Sorry, I know it's a lot to choose from. Probably the Hassan hurdle at Nebraska. It's just it was across the field, and yet it still came out with enough blurriness in the background. It was just like the perfect framing. It looked exactly basically how I wanted it to look. So probably the Hassan hurdle. Behind that would be Jabril Peppers' touchdown against Michigan State in 2016. That was like right place, right time, full anticipation. I knew he was going to get the ball. I knew he was going to run my way. And he dove for the pylon, and I got a great shot of him extending. I would have had a similar shot. I mean, I did have a similar shot with Blake Corum, long broken out touchdown run against Rutgers, only for that to be called back. That was my favorite of last year. Otherwise, weirdly, I don't feel like I have shots that are like particularly iconic. I feel like Patrick Barron, don't tell him I said this, I feel like he has a lot of iconic shots. I don't feel like I get iconic shots. I just feel like I think like my average shot, and this, I don't say this to be prideful. It's the way that I think I shoot. I think my average shot is probably better than most people's average shots, but I think that there are a lot of people that get way more iconic shots than what I get, if that makes any sense. So it's a trade-off. But I'm also shooting in mind that these are all going to be, these are mostly going to be used for articles, and I, know that my shot needs to be centered and all of these different rubrics. I want it to look cinematic. So that's how it ends up being. Perry Mitchell at Perry Mitchell 08. Harbaugh keeps talking about balancing the offense. Do you think that a full offseason for JJ this year makes them that more likely, since he barely threw last offseason? 100%. I mean, I don't know how much I have to add to that, but it's 100%. Like, he didn't throw last offseason at all, really. Still found himself in a quarterback battle. And also keep in mind, Young, first-time starter. We don't know exactly what he looks like outside of spot duty in real games. So I think that was certainly, I think that now they're going to, especially after that TCU game, despite the bad throws, you saw the good ones too. You take the good and the bad. I think that gives them a little more confidence. And if they can clean up the interceptions that he had in that game, everything's different. Sorry, I need to caffeinate here. Joshua Carlson at Josh WFF 96 early prediction for Michigan's record in 2024. Now that the schedule is revealed, assume JJ declares for the draft after the season. Okay, assuming that. Now, here's the issue. We'll get to this again later. Here in a couple questions, but like, I don't know who the quarterback necessarily is. It's way too early to tell. There's such thing as a transfer portal, but I would look at 2024. Let's go game by game. Maryland, Michigan State, Minnesota, UCLA. I'll say those are all wins. Wisconsin's a toss-up. I think Wisconsin might be better, but I think Michigan's got a good shot at home. At Illinois, I'll give them a win there. At Ohio State, I don't know. It depends on what happens this year. I think that's probably Ohio State's best chance to win if they're going to at least keep things close. And it's weird to say that. So I will go with that's a loss. At Rutgers, I will say that's obviously a win. At USC, I will say that is a toss-up. I'll lean towards a loss because just like a Michigan, we don't know what Michigan playing on the West Coast in the regular season in the modern era looks like. Back in the day, that would be an automatic loss. We don't know what USC's roster is going to look like. Lincoln Riley is obviously a pretty good coach. Maybe a little bit of a born on third base guy, but I mean, USC was struggling, and he brought Oklahoma with him and went from there. And then obviously that same year, they've got Oklahoma and I think a couple also rans. Let's see. I got to double check here. Michigan future schedules. Let's double check and see what we got here. Because obviously Oklahoma's on the docket. Oh, sorry, Texas is on the docket. Oklahoma's the next year. Sorry, I don't know why I spaced on that. So Fresno State, Texas, Arkansas State. Texas is going to be at Michigan Stadium, but a really good quarterback, whoever it is, probably. So I could see it being a 9-3 year. Basically, give them losses to Ohio State. Let's see. Give them losses to like Ohio State, just because, again, if you're saying no JJ, I'm not sure what that's going to look like. Obviously, no Blake, no Dono. It might be just a kind of rebuilding year. Still a rebuilding year. I think will look pretty good. So I have them losing to Ohio State, USC, and Texas, which would be disappointing, because those are the three marquee games. But, 9-3, 10-2, that would probably be where I'd go with that. All right. Anton Sesmita Mangala at Sesmita Mangala. What former player would you like to see come back as a coach or a coordinator? All right. I mean, everyone would say Tom Brady. I think quarterbacks coach. I think that would, even if we don't know if he can coach, right? But I mean, I think that would be really good for optics nonetheless, and probably recruiting as well. Who knows if he can, how like aggressive a recruiter he would be, but at the same time, you could just be like, look, it's Tom Brady. Like, don't you want to go play with Tom Brady? So that would be the obvious one. Outside of that, eventually Jordan Lewis, because I just love him. And heck, I wouldn't mind seeing either of my guys, DG or Jake Butt, come back and do it. I mean, DG obviously is doing the coaching thing, but he's doing it in concurrence with the media stuff. Jake is just doing the media stuff. Yeah, that would probably be my answer. I don't know if I have anything profound otherwise. James Kovalevsky at coach_Kovo. Nebraska is the only current Big Ten school, along with UCLA and USC, to follow not an AAU, which is the American Association of American Universities. I've heard the Big Ten is valuing AAU in expansion talks. Is that real or just a facade? If so, why does AAU matter for an athletic conference? Because these schools aren't just binding together athletically; they're binding together academically as well. That's the big thing, right? Like they are the same collective, right? They're promoting themselves as being now. Granted, athletics is the big draw, but it is that. I do think it matters in the sense of I think they are considering it, and I think that you saw that with Rutgers and Maryland. And when I look at other schools that would potentially join, that's why I think a school like Georgia Tech would make a lot of sense. Tapping in the Atlanta market might not make a lot of sense for might not make a lot of sense for sports, but make a lot of sense for the academics and just the region. Yeah, that's unfortunately that's the best I can give you. Finishing us out in segment 2, I'm not the one at William Cawthorne 9. Let's say JJ goes down this year, God forbid. Orgy comes in and balls out and wins the Natty. Do you think JJ leaves either in the portal or NFL? And if he stays, what do you think Michigan would do? I don't know. Probably the same thing that JT Barrett did. I don't know that JJ would automatically be like, yeah, I'm out. I think he loves Michigan. And he just strikes me as a guy that would stay kind of regardless. I think he welcomes challenges. I don't think he shies away from them. I think he welcomes them. If JJ moves on to the NFL and the QB room stays as it is, do you think Davis could win QB1? I think it's certainly possible. I would probably put him as the current odds-on favorite, but I think Alex Orji could take over. Jaden Denegal could suddenly get a lot better, right? No one saw Wilton Spate, at this time in his career being the starter the next year. Everyone had it slated it was going to be John O'Corn or Shane Morris, really. Wilton Spate was the odd man out, and then by spring he was the guy, and no one really, outside of my mentor Steve Lorenz, really recognized that until he actually started game one. All right, we've got more coming up here in just one moment. All right, I'm running way over time, so we're going to try to get through these. I'm surprised I'm being so long-winded after 2 days off. Usually it takes me, Monday episodes, for instance, I feel like, talking for over 20 minutes is a struggle. By Wednesday, I feel like it's second nature. So it's funny how that works. So it's weird when I get long-winded. BW at BW2623. Do you have any good Craig Robinson stories? I really only have the one, and it's one that I think I've shared here before. It's just that he used to, the company I worked for represented him, but I wasn't on his team or anything like that. But, the office was going on at that time. But he used to hang out at the same place. We used to go to this place, Boardwalk 11, as a karaoke bar, but they had football on Sundays, and none of us would really otherwise get to see the Detroit Lions. A pretty big collective of Detroit Lions fans, a group of friends that we all were friends in Ann Arbor or moved to Los Angeles. So we go to Boardwalk 11 on Sunday mornings to watch the Lions games, and we had so many people. We take over usually the big TV or whatever, and Craig Robinson used to go there to watch NFL games as well, and he'd sit up at the bar or at the table by the bar, and we'd all be cheering when the Lions did something. I'm talking in the 0-16 year. This is 2008, and whenever the Lions would do something good, and he'd hear us cheer, and you'd just hear his very familiar voice go, "All right, Lions," or "Yeah, Lions." It was cool. Ben Ricketts at RickettsBed92. Do you think Michigan is done in the portal now that Wallace is committed? I don't think necessarily. I think Paul Mulcahy departing Rutgers, entering the transfer portal from Rutgers, that feels like a good fit. So I'd be interested to see if Michigan does anything there. So no, I don't think they're necessarily done. Be crazy if they get, what would that be? 4 guys from the portal, 5 guys from the portal. And Olivier and Kamoa. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I was saying Oliver. It's Olivier. I see now. If you commented on YouTube or whatever, guess what? I didn't see it because I didn't look, but I looked closer and recognized that I was doing that wrong. But him and Amari Burnett and Trey Jackson, and so Mulcahy would be number 4. Be interesting. George Paul Lewis at G13 Lewis. Possible scenario for 2024 college football playoff. Michigan and Ohio State play the game, then they play again the following week. Like, let's say Michigan or OSU is 5th and the other is 12th, then they could possibly meet 3 straight weeks. Yeah, although I don't know if the committee, that would be doing the seeding would let that happen. I feel like they would be like, all right, let's give them a reprieve. But scenario, I don't know that that'll happen, to be honest. Rich Nelson at Rich Nelson 1. I'm hearing a lot of excitement from fellow Michigan alum about the 2024 road game at USC. How well do you think the Michigan fan base will travel to LA to support the Wolverines? I don't even think they need to travel. I think there is a big enough contingent of Michigan people in Los Angeles to really fill that out. Now, granted, this might be anecdotal, but I mean, I used to go to, it was initially at Hollywood Billiards, and then it was at South. No, neither of those places exist anymore, but to these alumni locations, they would be just absolutely packed. I worked with, at United Talent Agency, I worked with, I think, 8 other, maybe it was 10 other Michigan alums. Easily the biggest contingent. USC alums was second at UTA. There's just a lot of Michigan people in Los Angeles and Orange County and San Diego. And then if they're Michigan guys Michigan people in Vegas, they'll come out. I mean, or San Francisco or whatever. I think that it will be a huge draw. I would expect the Coliseum to be half Michigan fans, to be honest. Don at Don MTU 83. Thoughts on Penn State having no rivals per the Big Ten? Makes it possible for them to miss out on Michigan, Ohio State, and USC some years. I mean, that's their choice, right? They could protect a game. They chose not to. Their motto is unrivaled. So that's on them. Yeah, buddy, at Michigan, is Coach Harbaugh ceding more and more control to his OC, DC, AL? Yes, he's long done that. Once he brought in Josh Gaddis and then got rid of Don Brown, either had way more autonomy. I mean, I would say the offensive side at least has some edicts they have to follow to some degree. But the defensive coordinator is pretty much left to their own devices. Continues, I see it as a good thing as coaches seem to have stepped up and he has welcomed it. Absolutely. Athir Cotter, at Athir Cotter 1. Give me your top 3 Michigan QB for all-time greats. Let's see here. That's a weirdly hard one because as much as there have been a lot of really good ones, it's also hard to I'm not going to give you the statistical and give you John Navarre, who has the most passing yards, because that would upset a lot of people. But let's say I'm going to say Denard Robinson is number 1 because he just had an electrifying style that is pretty much irreplaceable. I will go with Tom Brady number 2 and Rick Leach number 3. I know I could probably go back to the Mad Magicians and all of that, but I haven't seen enough really. But that's going to be where I go with. And feel free to disagree with it because I probably disagree with it, to be honest. Finishing us out, Philly at I Am Philly. No more Penn State yearly? Nope. See him every other year. That's how it is. The only 2 teams you will see every single year is Ohio State and Michigan State. The two rivals. Outside of that, you'll see those other teams every couple of years. All right, that's going to do it for us for this episode, at least today. We'll either have another one tonight or tomorrow. It will probably air tomorrow regardless. So if you see me wearing the same clothes but in a much different location, that would be why. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.